Well, hello everybody. Good to see everybody in here today. Thank you for coming, TNT Tesla and Sean Donnelly and Kate and everybody else. Let's get into the quick story today because a common question is coming. People are lacking confidence. People are nervous. People believe a recession is incoming. And the question is, should they get out of the markets? Should they give it up? Should they move on to pastures new? Or will Bitcoin be okay? So I decided to analyze that for you to tell you, first of all, is a recession looming? And second of all, how does Bitcoin fare during a recession? Because the answer is not what you may expect. If for this scarce safe haven, can it shine if the economy tanks? So let's get into it. And thank you as well for coming, all the good people here. Unique content, 365 days a year. That's what I promise you all. Now, disclaimer, not financial advice. Who cares? And shout out to Patreon. We do care about that. From Sven. Joined your Patreon recently. First paid sub for me, and I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Sven. Thank you for being part of the team. Let's get into some, hey, Sol Bull, how are you? Sorry about the lack of Sol action, too. Everything seems to be just lackluster right now. But there's some good news. This is a quick chart from Glassnode, and it shows you that the long-term Bitcoin holders are back. Accumulation is in full swing, and they've been stacking secretly and quietly since Feb 21st. They know when to buy, and they know when to stack. So while everybody else is scared, the long-term holders know what to do. Now, they did dump quite a bit between the 13th of December and the 20th of Feb, but since then, they are back to accumulating and taking the Bitcoin from the short-term holders. In addition, another piece of good news, this is the Bitcoin Coinbase Premium Index, and it reached its highest level also since Feb 20th, after Bitcoin price has popped about 5% yesterday, which is a pretty good day considering the sort of dovishness from the Fed. But again, this Coinbase Premium is confident with the long-term holders coming back, and that is no coincidence. No such thing as coincidence. Another good news too is from Crypto Goose. Bitcoin history is repeating, and this chart, it's a bit of an eye chart. I'll try and walk you through it, but it shows you the previous bull markets and of course bear markets and the duration of specific points in time. So you'll see this is actually a 2-week chart. So 76 bars is about 1,066 days. And if you go back to 2013 to 2016, you can see the Bitcoin touched the lower support band around 2013 and stayed near it for 76 bars, or about 2.9 years, and then it really popped off into the parabolic zone. Same thing in 2018, 2019, chopped around for 1,043 days, and then boom, it popped. And that followed the 2021 bull run. Then, third cycle, we chopped again 1,036 days. This is uncanny. The first one was 1,064 days, second one 1,043 days, and the third one 1,036 days. Again, and after, it popped. The question is, will we pop this time? Bitcoin is very repetitive, and everything seems to be lining up. And I know people are losing their morale and think the bear market's in. I get nothing but comments about, oh, we're dead, we're all going to die, bull market's done. That's not the case, according to this and all the other data points I just showed you too. And remember, liquidity floats all boats. This is a chart of year to date, how global liquidity has gone up nearly 8%. And Bitcoin price has gone down while global liquidity has gone up a huge amount. The question is, what happens next? And we all know what happens next with a 10-week lag. And we're in that window right now, a little bit after, maybe 11 weeks. So we'll see. We just saw Bitcoin pop its little head up a little bit. We'll see how far it goes next. Next chart, too, from Pierre Rochard. He says Bitcoin's total market cap still makes up less than 1% of US household assets. And we're just talking the US, which is 4% of the global population, holds less than 1% of US household assets. So his interpretation of this crude little chart is we are so early. If you're in Bitcoin now, and considering the hardness and the halvings and everything else, and a couple of years from now, the inflation rate will go to 0.4%, we're in good shape. So again, Sometimes investing requires patience, and humans are famous for being very impatient. Thank you, Pi, in the UK. The other question now, which brings in kind of the theme I'm talking about today, people are nervous. Consumer sentiment is in the toilet. This is the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, and it tanked to 57 in March 2025. That's the lowest level since November 2022, which is also a mini recession, and that was only 64.7. We're lower than that. So the question is, what's going on? How come people have no confidence? Well, for the third consecutive month, consumers have shown continued pessimism. It's getting worse and worse. Probably some of the changes happening at the government in the US. Current economic conditions have also deteriorated. People are worried. People are worried about their personal finances. People are worried about labor markets. People are worried about AI. People are worried about inflation. People are worried about the stock markets. It's like everywhere you look, you're going to get punched in the eye, kicked in the teeth, whatever you want to say. So sentiment is in the toilet. Now, this brings us to what people expect. They expect more inflation, and they expect more pain to come, maybe even a recession. But what does this mean for Bitcoin? We'll get to that in a second. But one other piece of good news too. This just happened a few hours ago. Again, the price did not get too excited. It's typical buy the rumor, sell the news event. But Trump did vow to make the US a Bitcoin superpower in a very short address at the crypto conference. I think it was like 2.5 minutes long. Really scripted nothing burger. But the point is, he has delivered on his promises made, promises kept type of theme. So I believe they are going to do everything within their power to make the US a Bitcoin superpower. What happens? What happens now if nobody front runs and the US starts stepping into exactly where things are going? It could be exciting. Also, Bitcoin during recessions. This is the big story. What does Bitcoin do during recessions? Well, Bitcoin, it operates independently. It's fully decentralized. And some people find it an attractive hedge against certain things happening. We saw the US banking crisis happen a couple of years back, and how Bitcoin spiked over the weekend because everyone was freaking out. We could get something like that again if a recession kicks in or people get very nervous. Also, Bitcoin is resistant to inflation. When a recession kicks in, governments print a truckload of money to spur on the economy. China is doing that right now as we speak. Hence, the global liquidity is going to the moon. And people are worried about debasement because they now know when governments print, currencies get debased, and you need a hedge against that, and that is Bitcoin too. Just look at what gold is doing. Gold is about $3,000 now, which is crazy. Also, in fact, gold had its biggest rampage, I think, in decades. So very unusual situation, but it shows you how nervous the world is right now. Not only just the consumer sentiment, but everything else. And people, speaking of gold, Bitcoin lags gold. Bitcoin will follow gold. It's only a matter of time. There's no way gold can spike so much and for Bitcoin not to follow. That has been the trend over the past 14 years. We shall see if it continues as well. And everybody's worried about their traditional investments, their debasement. So I think Bitcoin has a shot. But let's look at the chart. Let's look at the data, and let's look at history and analyze what happens if a recession comes, or if a recession is coming. There's a whole bunch of questions to be answered here. And this is my first chart. This is the bottom half of this chart is the IA macro model, which shows you exactly when the economy turns south. The red dotted line across the middle is 0. If the blue shadow goes below that, it's a recession. If it's above it, it's a lot of growth. And you can see we've had a bit of a bumpy patch. And this may not really mean much at first blush, but I'll show you an annotated version in a second. The key here is when you're down under the red line, there's a recession. But what does Bitcoin price do? That's what we're interested in. And that's why I put this chart together to explain it a little bit better. Now, there are sometimes lags. So from the recession triggering, which often happens fast, I drew a gray line up to the Bitcoin price, and then I showed you the subsequent ride of Bitcoin after this. So the first one here is 2014. recession, and then a month later, Bitcoin went on a rampage and it went up for 1, 2, 3 years straight. Boom. This is a monthly chart, by the way. Then the big R arrow at the bottom is recessions. Second one was circa 2020, 2019. Nasty little recession there right before the C19 in March 2020, and that kicked in. But it all happened so fast that doesn't really show here. But the recession did kick in 2019, and Bitcoin went up. We had another one in 2020, March 2020, that big dipper there. That's the C19 one. And again, recession kicks, Bitcoin goes up, probably because of the crazy money printing, which happens every single time. That's why people flow into Bitcoin to get that hedge. And then the most recent one was 2022, late 2022, and Bitcoin's been on a rampage since then. Makes me think I should overlay the halving cycles over this chart. That would be even more interesting. But either way, the point is, when a recession kicks in, Bitcoin either instantly or within a month goes up. That's all you need to know. So for those of you out there that are fearing a recession, it's good for Bitcoin. And my models don't just tell you that, but this just came out too. How BlackRock believe a US recession will be a big catalyst for Bitcoin. And they believe Bitcoin would benefit from a recession because it thrives in environments when increased fiscal spending, deficit accumulation, low interest rates, monetary stimulus, and other conditions that are associated with economic downturns will drive the Bitcoin price higher. And this is from, I think, Robbie Mitchnick. He's head of BlackRock Digital Assets. And again, they have a long-term sophisticated model that tells their clients what to do during these types, and they believe their model will tell clients to invest in more Bitcoin. Not that they aren't already, but other people don't agree with this. People think, oh, recession bad, everything goes down. No, that's not what BlackRock think, and they're the biggest money runner on the planet. Anyway, they have a big influence, so we'll see what happens. We'll see. And the other thing to note as well, and I've been saying this quite a bit over the past couple of months or even a year, Bitcoin has become much more of an institutional game. It's much less of a retail investor game. Also, when you look at the treasuries, etc., they're driving the Bitcoin price. It's not the retail investor. So the retail investor sadly does get hit in a recession. There are job losses. People have to count pennies, tighten their belts, etc., but the institutions often do not have this situation. In addition, this is from the Bitwise CIO. He believes that there's a massive mispricing. In fact, there's mispricings galore happening right now in the market. So if you want to snag some deals, a lot of stuff is over 50% off right now. But according to the Bitwise CIO, and I apologize, I forget his name. Not enough caffeine this afternoon. But he spoke about how nobody is pricing in the fact that Washington, D.C. is embracing Bitcoin. We did see it rip from 65K to 109,000 after kind of the election. But what's happening behind the scenes is much bigger than just that price action. It's happening in Bitcoin, the SBR, and everybody is completely underestimating the change right now and how game theory could go into effect across other nation states too. And, if you asked me where we are today, was that even possible 4 years ago, 8 years ago? I said not in a million years. So things are crazy right now, and it's not priced in. Now, in other news too, the fuel that drives the crypto market is stable coins. And you can see here, just since the beginning of the year, Circle has minted $10.5 billion on Solana in 2025. If you look at these dates, every day they're minting $250 million. Boom, 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 like clockwork. Boom, 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 250. That's $250 million every day, pretty much. It's insane how much they are printing. And this stablecoin ultimately goes back in and buys things like Bitcoin and crypto. Bottle of Red, thank you so much for coming. You should have saved that for a bottle of Red for yourself. Hope to get you one day. Now, if we look here, this is a cool chart from Milk Road. It shows you how Tether, USDT, and USDC continue to grow as the market tanks. That's the blue line of these things, the two combined. They're nearly at $140 billion of stablecoins. So they are not slowing down. The price is suppressed, but the other things are happening out there in the marketplace. And in fact, I've been talking, I don't think I can remember how much I've spoken so much about Europe lately, but there's crazy stuff happening in Europe. And now Bitcoin has hit the mainstream media in France. And in French, they're declaring that Bitcoin has become a safe haven, just like gold. Because not only are people nervous in the US about economic conditions, they are very nervous back in Europe too. And even in France, they're a bit slow to adopt the old Bitcoin, except for the wisest of people that I know in our community here. But the mainstream French do not buy Bitcoin at all. But that could all change too. Again, everybody needs that safe haven, which ties into the nervousness and the loss of consumer confidence, etc., etc. In addition, another reason for perhaps some fear out there, the Eurozone, the ECB, keep on talking about how they're going to save Europe with their central bank digital currency. Woohoo! If you know anything about Orwellian times and have read history and books, there is nothing more terrifying than a central bank digital currency. I repeat, nothing more terrifying. But the problem is, the mainstream people, the plebeians out there, they don't know. They just think it's fine, it's normal, who cares? It's good, it'll help the government be more efficient. But no. And the European Central Bank is very concerned. They are awake at night, terrified about stablecoins, which I just covered how fast they are growing. Stablecoins like Tether and USDC, and even euro-pegged ones, are designed to maintain a stable value and make them very attractive for payments. The government, the European Central Bank, does not want their citizens using stablecoins for payments. That would disrupt their Cantillon machine. And they know if you are close to the Cantillon machine, you make a lot of grift. They don't want to lose that. So they are terrified. And they are really focusing on helping them save themselves and their grift by launching a central bank digital currency as a way to counter this risk. So watch this space very carefully. And they do say the quiet part out loud. And this is from Robert Breedlove, friend of the channel. Sorry, Europeans, save yourselves while you can, my friends. But from Robert Breedlove, he says, translation, social credit scoring system coming to Europe in October 2025. Social credit scoring system is another word for central bank digital currency. We know how they use it in China. And with some of the crazy stuff, and even the stuff that they've said lately about how we want to take citizens' private investments and help that fund our growth machine and our war machine and everything else. I mean, the things that they're saying is like, I don't know, maybe I'm just ultra paranoid, but I find it quite alarming. And the final piece of very good news today, as we talk about recessions in Bitcoin, the SEC did come out. They've been very, very active, hyperactive, especially around crypto. And they said proof of work mining does not implicate US securities laws. So there's a lot of people that are very afraid in the past that if you mine Bitcoin at home or you're a Bitcoin miner, you're basically impeding on Securities Exchange Commission laws, things like the Howie Act, etc. But the point is, they came out and they said a miner's self or solo or corporate mining is not undertaken with an expectation of profits to be derived from the entrepreneurial or managerial efforts of others. So basically, a miner contributes its own resources, computational resources, electricity, hardware, etc., and management, which secure the network and enable the miner to earn rewards issued by the network in accordance with its software protocol. So, good news for Bitcoin, good news for miners, whether you are an enterprise or an individual, you're not triggering SEC laws. So that was great. It's great to see how much they've come back to help support this whole industry. And again, I look forward to the rest of the world embracing more and more crypto. Again, good news, bad news, a real mix, but net, as I always used to say years ago, as all roads lead to Bitcoin. That's why we love it. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the mods in the chat. Buy Bitcoin, exactly, from Positive. Thank you, Sean Donnelly, and Batman, and Git, and TND Tesla, and everybody else. See you all later, and have a great evening. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday already. Can you believe that? Madness. Okay, good night. Bye.